The SKS, arguably probably one of the lesser used weapons in Delta Force, and probably for good reason. Now this weapon is actually available to the Recon and the Assault class, but the Assault has access to a lot of rifles that can do pretty much the same thing as the SKS, and then on the flip side, the Recon class has access to other Marksman rifles that are arguably better than the SKS overall. But I think I finally found a build that made me enjoy using the SKS rather than just foregoing this weapon and just using something else. So starting off with a blank slate here, as you can see, the base SKS doesn't have many attachments that you can actually put on it, but we're going to change that. So with the barrel, I tried to make an ultra long barrel build with this and like increasing the range, but it just wasn't working out. This weapon has a lot of recoil. As you can see, the base control is just abysmal and the recoil pattern on it is pretty weird. Yeah, I tried to do something with the long barrel, but yeah, it just wasn't working for me. So I chose to just stay with the cutoff standard barrel, which increases some stats at the slight cost of stability, but we're going to make up for that. Install that, and then we're going to calibrate this with plus 50 grams and plus 10 millimeters to at least get some of that muzzle velocity increase for those longer range engagements that we're going to take. For the muzzle, I actually chose to go with the PBS Russian suppressor. I was using this weapon a little bit more tactically, so I was trying to get some flanks off on my enemies because, as I said, a lot of the assault rifles in the game can do arguably a better job at what the SKS is supposed to be good at those ranges at which you would use this weapon. So I really wanted to put a suppressor on here and hopefully catch a lot of my enemies by surprise or off guard. Put that PBS suppressor on there, and we're going to go with the handguard. So you only have one choice here. You get positives across the board, but this also gives you a ton of other attachment options, which is great. So equip that. As you can see, opened up a lot of attachment slots here. For the front foregrip, I chose to go with the folding grip, which is way down here. So this increases your handling by 1, but also increases your stability by 5. The reason being, I was getting a lot of aim punch in my initial build for this weapon, and not ideal when you're firing single shot weapons like this. You want to keep your reticle on target as much as possible. So equip that, and then I calibrated this with plus 20 millimeters to increase my stability when moving, because I did find myself moving around a lot trying to maybe throw off the aim of people that are using fully automatic weapons. For the mags, you get 2 options here, so the 40 round extended mag or the 30 rounder. Considering how many downsides the 40 rounder has, I chose to just go with the 30 rounder. It just gives you flat out plus 6 handling, which is a head scratcher to say the least. Usually the extended mags give you penalties from the base mag that comes with the weapon, but this one does not. And then you can also put the mag assist on here. For the rear grip, I chose to go with the AK heavy tower grip, as is pretty common in my builds, because it gives you positives across the board and it gives you an extra grip mount slot. So equip that and then calibrate this with plus 50 grams to get a little bit of extra control, because this weapon does kick quite a bit. For the grip mount, I chose to go with the stable grip base, really increasing that stability to get less aim punch when people are firing back at you and hitting you. For the stock, I chose to go with the Shadow Buffer Tube stock. So this reduces slightly the stability, but gives you a lot more handling, so it allows you to ADS much quicker. As I was using this weapon in, again, ranges at which you would probably come up against ARs, so having that stock on there really allows you to ADS a lot quicker. So go ahead and install that, and then I calibrated this with plus 50 grams and plus 3 slots to get extra firing stability and extra control. For the sight, now, I would highly recommend putting a magnified optic on here. I'm not a fan of magnified optics. I chose to go with the OKP7 reflex and then simply up the zoom by 0.25x and of course reduce the eye relief by 20 millimeters, giving me a 1.5x zoom on this specific sight. I tried using magnified optics, but overall my playstyle doesn't really fit that type of optic, especially for a weapon like this, which I found myself using a lot more aggressive. But you can definitely put something a little bit more magnified on here and you'll do probably very well with this build. For the 3 rail slots here, you can put panels on there, so I chose to go with 3 KC Hound handguard panels to get some of that stability back. So install 3 of those, completely foregoing any laser sight on here. You still have 50 accuracy, which is pretty decent for the SKS, and if you come into a really CQB situation, hip firing it, you won't really have that much of an issue. Now, in order to use this specific weapon build, you will need to level up the SKS to level 50, which is quite a ways into it. and it's actually the last Marksman rifle you unlock in Delta Force at operator level 36. Obviously, one of the biggest downsides of the SKS is that it is single fire. It's only doing 27 damage per shot, so you're still going to need 4 body shots to actually kill someone, or if you get a headshot mixed in there, it's still going to take you 4 shots because you're only doing 51 damage to the heads. But it just feels a little bit underpowered for a Marksman rifle, but obviously it shoots faster than some of the other competitors like the SR-25, for example. But the other real problem I had with the SKS was the recoil pattern. It is difficult to control at range because it kicks up a lot and then it goes side to side, or mostly to the left actually, but it just makes it very difficult to get follow-up shots on your targets. So weapons like the SR-25, it requires 3 shots to kill even if you get a headshot, because the damage multiplier on that one isn't quite as high as it should be in my opinion. But yeah, with the SKS you have so much recoil. I tried to like max out the recoil and it didn't fix the issues that I was having with the weapon, so I chose to completely you know, forego that idea of just maxing out the recoil control and really focusing on all the other stats, so I can use it kind of like a hybrid aggressive weapon that does a decent amount of damage, you know, comparable to some of the higher damaging ARs, but you can also use it at those longer ranges to get max damage up to the 55 meter mark, which no AR is going to get damage range up to 55 meters with max damage. So honestly, the SKS is really like in a weird spot where it's kind of like a hybrid between the Marksman rifles and the assault rifles, and it just feels like it gets outclassed on either side of the coin right here. But I still wanted to make a build for it because I am trying to make my way through all of the different weapons in Delta Force, and I ended up having the most fun with what you're seeing today on screen. But yeah, I think this build is actually a lot of fun to use. I was even using it in Shafted and doing pretty decent on that map, albeit, you know, the SKS is not the type of weapon you want to use on a map like Shafted, even Knife Edge and stuff like that. I had tried initially to put like accuracy on the weapon by attaching 3 Hornet handguard panels, but the stability penalties was too much, and I was just getting so much flinch when I was getting shot at that, especially at those longer ranges like 50, 60-ish meters. It just was even worse to fire, so I just figured it's probably not a good idea to put Hornet handguard panels on here. Really need to bump up the stability a little bit more. And then I tried certain compensators like the Sandstorm compensator, the Bastion compensator, and the recoil all pretty much just felt samey to me, so that's why I completely put those aside and prioritized the suppressor to get the drop on my targets, and then when I ended up getting the drop on them, not alerting everybody around me that I was in fact behind them. So if you're looking to try something a little bit different in Delta Force, maybe give the SKS a whirl. Hopefully this build will perform up to your standards. Again, you can put something a little bit more magnified on there if you enjoy the magnified optics. That's just personal preference at this point. The build functions basically the same no matter the optic you put on here. As always, the share code for the build will be in the description down below, as well as in the top pinned comment. Same thing for the G sheets of all the builds I've done for Delta Force. If you've tried the SKS in the past, let me know if you've enjoyed it or not, and hopefully this build might change your mind on the SKS as a weapon. In any case, I'll leave you with a few highlight clips of me using this build or the one with the Hornet handguard panels. I got some pretty good clips with that as well. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.